You're listening to the Junkie podcast with the host Joel Vansel. This is your number one source for Derby news. Carnage on the track, motors overheating. The podcast is presented by Vansel Productions, always filming non-stop action. Vansel Photography, it's more than just a photo. Capital Industrial Derby Supplies and Derby Tees. And now, your host, Joel Vansel.
Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of the Derby Junkie podcast, episode number 5, and that's right, that's a new name, the Derby Junkie. We'll get into talking about that here in a little bit. New logo, new format, new everything. Hopefully everybody's been having a good new year. Hopefully everybody's getting back to their normal routine of their daily life. Hopefully they had a good couple weeks off of the holiday break. Before we get to news, Derby info, all that, before we start on that, I want to talk a little bit about the new name, why we have a new name, the new logo, new format, and everything. If you've been following me from episode number 1, I started out with Derby Talk podcast. I did that for a couple episodes, and then I switched it to Crash Derby Talk podcast. And the thing is, I was going to go with that name. And it was if you have not heard of the Crash Course podcast, which I know a lot of people have, it was very similar to that name. And somebody told me that, hey, you need to probably change it up a little bit because you're very, very similar to their name. And I don't want to be taking any credit from them because I respect the Crash Course podcast. I'm a big fan of that show. I will watch them. I try to watch them every single Monday nights. But I didn't think that I was trying to take their name or a part of it, and I was. So with that said, I apologize for trying to pretty much copy their format, their name, a form of their name, and I didn't mean to do that because that's not who I am. And so with that said, this is a new name. We're going to keep the Derby Junkie podcast, and here in a little bit I'll tell you how I got that name, who helped me get that name. We have a new logo that you're going to see when you're listening to this podcast. That's pretty much the logo, the format you're going to see when you're listening in. We're going to have a little bit new effects. You just have to wait to see what I have installed. I have video. When I say video, when people call in, when I interview somebody, if I have video from going to a county fair, a state fair, or whatever, if I have video of that person that I'm interviewing, I'm gonna have clips, highlights from their class that they ran. If it's mini, stock, mods, trucks, whatever, I will throw that into there so you guys at home can be, when you're listening in, you can also be watching some highlights from their the events they competed in. So that's gonna be something new. You'll just have to tune in here in a couple weeks when I have drivers on the show. So that you have all that mentioned. And I've been working on trying to get drivers, promoters on the show. That's still in the works. We have a couple people that would be lined up. Still trying to get for a few more drivers. I'm also talking with a few promoters of some shows that I would like to get on the show. It's still up in the air. Check back for updates. I might mention them when I have another podcast. The next podcast that I have, that I'll mention who's on the next show. But we're getting a feel of what we're going to be doing on this podcast. It's coming along pretty good. A lot of things that I still have to get organized. But before we get in with any more news, another thing I'm going to mention. I mentioned this on my Facebook page. If you've been following my Vansel Productions page, thank you. If you haven't, please like my Vansel Productions page. This is the page that I will post all my podcasts. I will post my filming schedule. I'll be posting all my videos, pictures, everything on that page. But in the last couple of posts, I've been posting about having drivers on the show, and people do not know what a podcast is. This is a podcast right here. It's me just talking. It's on the internet. It's broadcasting, but you can do two different versions. You can either do an audio, which I'm doing, or a video, which you can see the person or people or whatever that on that show, like the Crash Course. They're a podcast. You can see them. There's Chris Marquardt, there's Brian Topkins, Josh Decker. They are on the show. You can see them. They will have people call in, or they'll have a lineup of drivers they talk to or promoters, and you can see them. You can hear the phone calls they're having. That's something some people ask me, why did I not do that? Well, why I'm not doing that is because my lack of internet. I've looked into do live streaming off YouTube, and I did some tests, and it was buffering every 5 to 10 seconds. It was very slow. I have really poor internet connection right now. Until I move into, I guess I don't have to move, but I could upgrade on my internet connection if I wanted to. But I plan on moving here here another year or so. So when I do that, I might try to get a better internet connection and try to make a studio so I can bring a live streaming, and so you guys can see me. Maybe I could try to get a driver in the studio with me. I don't know yet. I'm doing all this by myself. I'm doing this at my home. So there's a lot of things that have been in my mind. I'm thinking about. I have still a lot to learn, for one, and a lot of things I can tweak if I need to. But right now it's just going to be an audio. So with that said, I'm not doing a live streaming right now. It's just a podcast, an audio podcast. But this is an audio podcast. And what I want to do is I want to get drivers from Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, the Midwest. Yes, the Midwest, I guess you could say the Midwest can stretch a little bit further out. I could do Wisconsin. I could do Minnesota. I could do Tennessee. I could go out to Missouri, Iowa. I could do all that. I guess you could consider that Midwest too. If I have time, I will try to get some drivers, promoters out there too. But my main reason is to cover the Midwest. That's what I want to do. With the guys over on Crash Course, they're covering the East Coast. They're doing New York, Pennsylvania, and then they will hit the big main national events. They have a lot on their plate if you think about it. I mean, to cover all 50 states, that's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. So I thought, let me try to do this. Let me see if I can cover 5 to 7 states if I can, or whatever. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the Midwest, those 5 states I mentioned, maybe a few more states if I can. So we have a lot in store for you for the next couple weeks. Like I said, I mentioned a few drivers I have already on the show. They're coming up here in the next few weeks. Stay tuned I will put up some ads out there for the drivers that are going to be on the show. And then we will have them on the show. And I think that will make the show more interesting because I will do a live phone interview with them. They'll be on the other line. I'll ask them questions about, what they think about Demolition Derby. Talk a little bit about, their career, their past, what's ahead of them in the future for Demolition Derby. I'll have some questions that, right now are going around the Demolition Derby, and the fairs, the rules, and just I want to know what their opinion is about certain rules. And also, I'm going to try to branch myself on I'll try to have a few people in stock class, the mod class, the truck class, the minis, the outlaw. I want to have drivers from each class. I just don't want to try to get a whole bunch of people doing or running mods and leave the mini class out or the truck class out. I'm going to try to get a variety of people on this show so I can talk to each different class and try to make this a very interesting show. But that's my main point is when I'm doing this show is to make this sport grow, make it very interesting to listen to, and make a difference for Demolition Derby. That's my goal. That's the why I did this podcast. So right now we're starting to make some progress. But with all that said, I want to say thank you to everybody that has supported me on doing this podcast. I've talked to a lot of people. And every person that I've talked to, they thought it was a good idea, that they're pretty much proud for me doing this. I thank you for the words of wisdom. I pretty much can say that this has been a thought process for several months now. I'm winging it right now. I'm trying to get a better person on talking on the microphone, because if you knew me from Adam, I wouldn't say I was shy, but it was hard for me to talk to derby drivers, I guess you would say. When I started doing filming events at county fairs or wherever, I was kind of shy. It was hard for me to go up to a driver or even the promoter of the event and talk to him, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I wanted to talk about to him, questions I might have wanted to ask him. So it was hard for me. I would stay in my one spot and wouldn't move. But now I've been branching out, and a lot of people have known who I am. They know that I'm Vansel Productions, that I film a lot of derbies, that I do good video work. And so the people that I've talked to that I want to get on the show, they always would tell me, hey, you do good video work, keep it up. I enjoy watching your videos. With that said, that puts a lot of less pressure on me, because I know I'm doing a good job, that I can relax a little bit, because I've try to do too much on myself. So again, with all the support in this podcast and people trying to support me on this, I appreciate everybody that has supported me to this point and has continued to supported me. A few sponsors that I want to mention on my podcast for allowing me to sponsor their company on my podcast: CIDS, which stands for Capital Industrial Derby Supplies. Nate Bugle, he's from Ohio. I've ordered merchandise from him, but he allowed me to sponsor his company, which I do appreciate. Thanks, Nate. And Derby Tees, which I think a lot of people who know who Derby Tees is. Ed Carls, he allowed me. I talked to him, and he allowed me to sponsor his company on my podcast. So again, thanks to Nate and Ed for allowing me to sponsor their company names on my podcast. I really appreciate it. So going back to the beginning, when I was telling you guys about my new name of the podcast, the Derby Junkie podcast, where I got this name, Ed Carls. He was the one that helped me get this name. I emailed him and was talking to him about sponsorships, and he informed me, hey, you're getting really close to the Crash Course name. You really need to branch off. And he came up with a name for me, and I'm thinking, wow, I didn't know I was doing that, and I felt terrible for that. I felt bad that I was very, very similar to the Crash Course. And when you think about Crash Derby Talk podcast, is very similar. It is. You're getting very similar to their name. So I took his consideration on changing the name to the Derby Junkie podcast. So again, thanks Ed for helping me out on changing the name. Okay, next on the list, so my podcast, what I've been doing, and when I've been posting these podcasts is I've been kind of posting them on Friday evenings, and this is another thing that's on my mind too. When I post these podcasts, these are taped podcasts. They're not live, they're taped. What I'm going to start doing, and this is how the format's going to work, I'm going to start taping, when I do my phone interviews, I'm going to tape Thursday nights, but they're always going to be a week in advance. So for instance, I'm going to have a driver on the January 29th, and so I'm actually taping him January 22nd, and then I'm posting it a week after I tape him. And then I'm having another person on February 5th. I'm taping him January 29th. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to always be a week ahead, I guess you would say that. So it's going to be a week later when I post that video, or not the video, the audio. I'm going to post that a week later when I do the taping. So I plan on doing a new podcast every Thursday night at 6 p.m. I will post it at 6 p.m. so everybody can listen to it. It'll be I will post it on my Facebook page, Vansel Productions. I will post it on WeCrash, and it will be on YouTube. So there'll be 3 ways of listening to this podcast. Just going through my notes. What else to talk about? New things that are going to be coming along the next few months. A derby that I would say it's right now. It's in the works. If you haven't heard of the Good Guys Rods and Customs, they're a car show they go around the whole country. They do a lot of shows, actually. They don't do several, they do a lot. They come into the Indiana State Fairgrounds here June 6th, and they'll be doing a 3-day car show, which they did it last year, and I was down there at the State Fairgrounds in Marion County, and that was an awesome show. Saw a lot of classic cars, some awesome motors, but also they'll be having another Demolition Derby Saturday night at, I think it's 6 p.m. start time. They did it last year, and I was down there also watching the Derby, and it was an awesome time, and it was an awesome show. But I plan on, well, with that said, I don't plan on it yet. I possibly might be filming the show. I do not know yet. It's still up in the air. I'll let you guys know if I'll be doing that show or not. But also, I might be doing advertising for them. I don't know yet. I can't say that. But I'll let you guys know when I hear that. I'll be posting maybe some ads online or on the podcast and on my page, and we'll go from there. But I would like to get the promoters on the show, but they have not responded back to my email yet, so I'm still waiting for that. I know they had an update here a couple of days ago, or about a week ago, something like that. I haven't checked WeCrash here in a few weeks, or not a few weeks, a few days. And they were saying that they were trying to get the last information set with the Good Guys and get everything set so they can announce it. But again, when I hear everything, I'll mention it on my podcast. I will post information. So before I go, my filming schedule for the 2015 season. May 30th, 2015 in Clinton County, Indiana. Frankfort, Indiana, you would say. That'll be my first show. I think we'll be kicking off the season for 2015. Will be May 30th. They're going to be doing Pro Mod, stock, minis, and Power Wheels for the kids. Pro Mods will be 15,000. 15,000. Yeah, I wish if it was 15,000, you'd be seeing a lot of cars there. 1,500. Sorry, guys. Sorry if I got your hopes up. 1,500 for first. Stock will be 1,500, and minis will be at least a minimum of 300. It could change. So that would be May 30th, 2015 at the Clinton County Fairgrounds in Frankfort, Indiana. That will be my first show that I'm going to be filming. And then June 6th, like I mentioned, the Good Guys Rods and Custom. That'll be a show I possibly might be filming. I do not know yet for sure. It's still up in the air. I'll let you guys know again, like I mentioned already. They're going to be having mods and stock. That's all I've been hearing. That might change. They will post everything. They will post the rules. I think they've been posting a little bit of the rules. I don't think they have everything set yet. But as far as I know, mods and stock are the two classes I've been hearing about. So stay tuned to that. Clinton County Fairgrounds in Frankfort. They're doing a spring show in May, but they also do a county fair in like the beginning of July. I have not heard any information yet on a county fair show for that place yet. If they have one, I will add that to my schedule on my calendar, and that will be another show. But as of right now, I haven't heard anything yet. John Fawcett usually takes care of Clinton County. He's a promoter of that venue. I will be having him on the show here in the upcoming months, and maybe he can tell us a little bit information on that. But again, if they do have a show, I will be filming that show too. But as of right now, it doesn't look like I'll be going there unless the schedule change. But Tippecanoe County Fairground in Lafayette, Indiana, July 25th of 2015 will be their county fair show, and I'll be there to film. The classes they'll be having is mod, stock, and minis. $1,300 for the mods, $1,300 for the stock, and a minimum of at least $300 for the minis, and that could change again as well. And then back to the Indiana State Fairgrounds, August 16th of 2015 in Marion County. Mods, stock, and minis is the classes they'll be having. $2,000 for first at the mods, $2,000 for first for the stock, and at least a minimum of $500 for the minis. That could change as well for the minis. Pretty much the Indiana State Fair Derby, the Tippecanoe Fair Derby, the spring show at the Clinton County Fairgrounds. Those three are going to be ran by John Fawcett, who I'll be having, like I mentioned here a few seconds ago. He'll be on the show, and I'll be having him on here in a couple months, probably about March, April or so. I plan on having some other promoters on the show. I'm still, like I said, I'm still trying to get word from them. I haven't had anything confirmed. 2 drivers for sure to be on the show, and I've been getting a few more. I won't mention those names yet because I have not had a set schedule or a set date on when I'm going to have these drivers on the show, but 2 drivers I can confirm already. January 29th will be, and Sean, I apologize. I can never say your last name right. I'm gonna have to ask you when I call you and talk to you on the 22nd. Sean Knochel. I think that's right. I'm not sure. I don't know why I'm messing up his last name, because I talk to this guy all the time, and I guess I never asked his last name. I just call him by Sean, or the Sheridan Slobberknocker, as you would say his AKA name. And then February 5th, Jason Jarbo, AKA oh crap, why I'm messing up his nickname. Well, I had it for a second. Iron Gladiator. That's it, aka Iron Gladiator. So those would be the 2 drivers I have so far confirmed that I have a set date for them. Sean will be on first, and then Jason will be on the next week. These are really 2 good guys. I've talked to them at different derbies, different county shows. They've competed in for several years now, a lot in the past. But these are 2 good guys that I'll be having on the show. And but yeah, I have a few more drivers that I'm in talks with. I'll have them on the show here shortly. I don't know exactly a date, but we'll get that squared away, and then I will mention it to you. But again, this is just a start for the podcast to improve, and we plan on having drivers, promoters, even fans. If fans want to be on the show, you may do so, but I'm going to leave the door open for drivers and promoters because they're the ones that help the sport. But I'm not saying fans don't, because the fans do. But again, if you're a fan and you don't derby or promote, you are more than welcome to be on the show. But I want to try to give the drivers and promoters some time too, because you'd be surprised on the drivers on what they do day in, day out, getting these cars ready, getting these cars to the fairgrounds, and they compete. And then same with the promoters. They do more than the drivers. I wouldn't say that. Might be a good question actually to ask drivers and promoters. Which does more, a promoter or a driver? I mean, it depends on the class too, on the drivers. That means seriously, that's a question to think about. Which does more? I mean, because you got stock class that it depends on the rules. You might have to strip it out and do a few things on the body or the you can't really touch the frame. But again, it depends on the rules. But if you do a modified car, you'll be doing a lot of work. For sure, you'll be doing work on the body and the framing. But do the drivers do more work than the promoters? I mean, the promoter, I can't quote any promoter on anything because I don't know what goes in through promoters, and that'd be a question to actually answer or have a promoter answer and ask him. I mean, they have to get the trophies ordered. They have to order the trophies make. It depends on how much they're paying out. They got to get sponsorships for the derby. They got to get everything in line. And I don't know exactly what a promoter does entirely, but I know it can be a stressful job. But that's actually getting me thinking about asking that when I might have to ask some drivers when they get on the show what they think. Do you think a driver does more, or does a promoter do more? And of course, it depends on the class. I mean, I guess I should ask a modify driver that does modify classes, because you'd be surprised. I've been around some modified drivers, and how the time that they put in some of these cars, it's ridiculous. But with a promoter, they start a little earlier than the driver on a car. Maybe the driver might start 2 weeks before the derby, and then they might be working 2 weeks on it every single day. But it's the time on how much they put into the car too. What is the time the promoter puts into getting a event to a venue? That might be a good question. I'm going to have to ask drivers and promoters that and see what they think. But anyways, I think that's going to do it. That's going to do it for this episode number 5 of the Derby Junkie podcast. Coming up next, the next episode, we will have Sean on the show, and he's a guy that runs stock. He runs nothing but stock cars. I'm going to have to ask him this question, and I wasn't there last year, but They had the Clinton County Fairgrounds in Frankfort, Indiana. They had a fall show, and he ran his stock. He had a Cadillac. It was like mid 70s Cadillac. He ran that in the mods class. And I'm gonna have to ask him how that went and how did he feel after running that class. I can't remember where he placed, but I'm gonna have to ask him about that. That'd be a question to ask him. I heard about that and I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, you really ran in the mods class with your stock car? So we'll ask him. We'll catch up with him and ask him why he decided to do that, and we'll have some questions for him, and I'll have some questions to ask him about his past career and his future in Demolition Derby, and we'll be going from there. Then we'll be having Jason the following week, and then I'll begin some more other drivers on the show. But again, thanks guys for listening in. We did a half hour, and of course I just did a lot of talking and rambling. But again, I'm trying to get better at this podcast, and I know I am. Just bear with me. I appreciate the listeners. I do. So that's gonna do it. Check back. The 29th is when we'll post the next podcast. So less than 2 weeks from now, we'll be posting our episode number 6. That will be with Sean. So again, thanks guys for listening. We'll see you soon. Take care. Hey guys, Joel Vansel here. Thank you again for listening to my podcast. I appreciate all of the support. If you haven't already liked my page, please do so on Facebook.com, search Vansel Productions. You can keep up with all my information and podcasts that I post. Again, thank you for listening.